think my love for cooking and hospitality started at a really young age. I grew up in a home where my dad was a caterer and at one point owned a restaurant, and my mom had hospitality and cooking skills second to none. So I grew up around food and around hospitality. We ate dinner together every single night around our table, just the five of us. My mom rarely ever missed cooking a meal, and that had a huge impact on me, an impact even to this day in how I'm raising my family. When Tanner and I got married, I kind of started to dabble in cooking and hosting get-togethers and called my mom a lot for cooking questions, and I've enjoyed learning how to cook better and enjoyed trying new things, and that love for hosting, that love for hospitality grew by leaps and bounds. And however, for reasons I'm not quite sure, a few years ago I began to question that passion. Did it really matter? Was it worth all of the effort to go through this hospitality? And I had selfishly convinced myself that other people were far better at this than I was, that other people had more resources, that their homes were better suited for hosting get-togethers, that their grocery budgets were better suited for dinners. And I convinced myself that maybe I wasn't the one cut out for this. And to be honest, I kind of lost my joy, and it wasn't a very fun time. So thank God he opened my eyes and kind of drew me out of that pit that I was in. I decided to study hospitality in Bible Times just on my own. I began reading a lot about hospitality in Bible Times, reading a lot about how Jesus used food and hospitality when he was on the earth. And there's a lot of references to that. I was really encouraged and surprised by how many references are in the Bible to that and how we are encouraged today to do the same thing. During that time, there was a phrase that kept running through my head, and the phrase was, use what you have. And so I determined to use what we had. And we had a dining room and that we had used, and we were very grateful for it. But it kind of had begun to feel cramped and crowded when we had get-togethers. Towards the front of our house is a really long, narrow living room. And one day it just hit me, hey, that could house a really cool harvest-style big dining table. And it kind of crossed my mind and then kind of went out, and it kept coming back to me, like, could we turn our living room into a dining room? And it was kind of a crazy idea, and I shared it with a few people, and a few people loved the idea, a few people thought it was crazy, but we went ahead and tried it. We thought, well, we have nothing to lose. So we swapped the two rooms around, put our dining room table into our living room, and instantly fell in love. It was almost like this was the way the room was meant to be, and we wished that we would have done it a long time ago. So then we began the hunt for a table, and a huge table, like an 11-foot long table. And we quickly figured out that 11-foot tables are hard to find, and when you do find them, they are very expensive. And we kind of got a little discouraged because it wasn't looking like we were going to be able to do that. We had actually hit kind of a frustrating financial part in our lives, which is another story entirely, but we got discouraged, and it didn't look like it was going to work. But we decided just to pray for a table. And I know that might sound crazy, but we did. We prayed for a table, that God would provide one that we could afford and that would fit our new living room, dining room, and that would house a lot of people around it. Well, a Facebook conversation came up, and we found out that Tanner's cousin was actually building an 11-foot table, a harvest table, exactly what we wanted for their new house. I kind of went out on a limb, and I asked if he might be willing to build one for us as well, and he said sure. And so we were so thankful for his willingness and his graciousness, and so he built us a table just like his. Several months later, Tanner and I went on a little road trip to go pick up our new table, and we were so excited. We spent hours upon hours sanding it and cleaning it up, staining, and we distressed it and sealed it, and many, many hours were spent on that project. But at the end, when all was done and everything was cleaned up, we stood back and we looked at it, and we could hardly believe it. It was exactly what we wanted. So I thought I would just talk about why a table. Why does this mean so much to me? Why am I so passionate about cooking for people and gathering people, specifically gathering them around a table? I think it's because deep down we all have a desire to be fed. We love to be fed physically. We like to experience the tastes and the textures of food that's generously provided for us every single day. But even more than that, I think we have this deep down desire to be fed in our hearts and in our souls, to feel loved and cared for and nourished. And I truly believe with all of my heart that all of that can be accomplished around a table while enjoying a meal with the people that you love. And really, to take it a step further, I think sharing meals together matters to God. I mean, I would love to sit around the table, and I have, and I hope to do more in the future, but sit around a table and share stories of how God has worked, the things that He's done in my heart and in my life and in my family's lives, our friends. I think it's just a great place to share those stories and to see God working. I think I've learned that food matters, meals matter, people matter, and my heart also hopes that you'll do the same, that you'll put aside your feelings of inadequacy or being scared to be hospitable, and that you'll put those things aside like I once felt, and that you'll open your home, that you'll open your front door. I think I've learned, if anything, that hospitality begins far before you open your front door, much before you cook that meal or invite people over. It begins in your heart, in the quiet places of your life that nobody else can see. That's where hospitality starts, and that's where it matters the most. True hospitality is not about impressing or entertaining. True hospitality is about service and love. So I hope that you will join me. I hope that you'll join me around my table someday. There's always a cup of coffee waiting in our house, and the front door is always open. But even more than that, I hope that you will join me in opening your home and in being hospitable to those that God brings to your life. Because I speak from experience that by doing so, your heart will be filled to overflowing.